Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of B2B Live Collab, where I interview entrepreneurs, game changers, industry leaders who are revolutionizing their industry consciously, as well as doing it in such a wonderful and holistic and collaborative way. I have for the first time branding experts. So they're gonna help us out for 2025 and beyond to learn how to brand, what does it mean, where we're going. And I've never had anyone on branding online yet. So this is a special treat. Please help me welcome Jay Rise and Sunshine. How are you guys today? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having us. Honored to be here.
Yes, thanks so very much for being here. We have a short time, so we need to compact it a bit more. I wanted to ask you before we even get started into any of the layouts and stuff, why have you focused on branding?
That is a great question. And branding is everything. Like anything that you're trying to do or accomplish hinges on your brand. A brand is just a reputation. It's a fancy business word, a fancy modern word for reputation. And reputation has always existed. Reputation has always influenced everything anyone is doing. We got the new Trump president thing going on here. He won because of his reputation, and he's going to stay there because of his reputation. And if he gets kicked out or impeached, it'll be again because of his reputation. Your customers, your clients, your audience, the people who are coming to watch this show, they're coming for either your reputation or my reputation or a combination of our reputations. Mm-hmm. Our brands, basically. So branding is everything. And I've been doing it in one form or another for a quarter century.
That's a long time.
And it's not just
a quarter of trendy. So your brand is your reputation.
Yes.
And it's not just your business reputation.
Yes.
You know, that friend that's always late, that's her reputation. You know, we all have that, whether we have a business or a personal brand. So it very much matters.
Yes. When I want to dive into a bit more, there are three main points that I want to talk about today. But going off of the brand is your reputation. Why have you focused on that specifically? Because I'm sure you've seen a lot of things out there. This is not your first time. You've been doing this for a quarter of a century, as you've said, right? You've worked with international industry leaders, highly successful in terms of how the world views success financially, in terms of with their branding, with their work. So please share with us a bit more about that aspect. Like your brand is your reputation. How can I cultivate it to represent me authentically in 2025? Because if I have a business, it could be me, anyone, right? That's tuning in, listening, watching the replay. And they might think to themselves, well, I have a good reputation. What do you mean my brand is my reputation? I know this. I have a good reputation. Like, what do you say to that? How can we cultivate a really nice reputation or a good reputation?
Well, it's a great question. It's actually two great questions. And well, first off, you have to admit that you can't improve anything until you acknowledge that there's room for improvement. So if someone's saying I already have a good reputation, we're not a good fit. I shouldn't be talking to them, because it's like going to a doctor and saying everything's fine. Like, why would you go to a doctor dancing up and down saying everything's fine? You go when you know there's a problem and it's time to fix it. And so if I'm the brand doctor, then presumably whoever's talking to me knows there's a problem and is asking for help to fix it. So if I do bump into someone like that, generally I ask them, are you unknown, locally known, regionally known, nationally known, or globally known? Because it's one thing to say I have a great reputation, but if you're only locally known, it's not that great, is it? And if you're unknown, it's even worse.
In terms of like from that business perspective, if you're building your business, you mean?
Well, in terms of any perspective, like your reputation has a size and a strength. I mentioned Trump earlier. His reputation is global. Like people who don't even have TVs in super poor countries somehow know this guy's name and like know what he's about and know what he's doing. I don't know, whatever he's done well at growing his reputation. Whereas my dad is a genius inventor and engineer, but I don't think anyone outside of my family knows. You know what I mean? Or like outside of my city.
Outside of your city, yeah, because his work is just more localized, correct?
Well, he just hasn't bothered to grow his reputation, and probably doesn't know how to, even if he wanted to.
That's a good point. You just started off hard. You're like, your brand is your reputation, and now we're like, your reputation has a size and a strength. When I hear this right away, when you said your reputation has a size and a strength, I immediately went to something like, your spirit or your person, the person, like you have a certain strength within you. You have a certain size, like or aura or what would they call it? I don't know. I'm just using the word vibration or energy. Yes. And that does have a size and a strength. But then now you're applying the reputation to the brand, having your reputation having a size and a strength. And to confirm, that does not necessarily mean that it's associated with the person. Yes, kind of like how your energy has a size and a strength. But this is kind of something a bit different, right? Since we're talking about the reputation. Or do you think, or is that tied together? Just for clarification.
Yeah. I mean, you always have good questions. I love it. Anything can have a reputation, right? A Maytag washer dryer can have a reputation, and so can a Miele washer and dryer.
Yeah.
A person can have a reputation, or that person's company or their corporation or LLC can have a reputation. Their products can have a reputation, right? So you can have a brand for anything, but brands affect each other. If I have a great personal brand and a crappy business brand, that's going to affect my personal brand, or vice versa. Steve Jobs' brand was sort of an angry, demanding personality, and he ended up with cancer, and like the anger and the demanding nature might be related to that, might not. But either way, his company brand or his corporate brand, Apple's brand, was one of innovation and design and artistry and these kind of things. And so would Apple have that strong brand without a demanding person at the helm, right? Like you see how all the branding intersects and influences one another, the personal brand, the business brand, the product of brand, the marketing of the brand. So like I said about my dad or Trump or Maytag or whoever we're talking about, there's a size and a strength of that brand, of that reputation, and it can be adjusted and influenced and changed. But if someone came to me and said my brand is okay or it's fine right now, I would again toss it back to them and is your brand Apple level? Is your brand Nike level?
Yeah. I like how this conversation is going. For all those who have tuned in early, thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments. We'll get to it. If you have a comment, if you have a thought, maybe branding is your thing, please let us know. Put it in there. We want to hear from you as well. Jay and Sunshine. I'll call you Sunshine. When it comes to, and I love what you said, the brand has a reputation. Your reputation has a size and a strength. And now your personal and your business brand, they affect each other. There's like this symbiotic flow, and that flow affects you as well based on where you're located, and all of these other things. And one things I want people to understand as well, I know Jay brought up, is your brand local? Is it national? Is it global? Don't feel like you have to be global if maybe right now you have to be local, right? Or you're now starting, and so don't misinterpret what Jay is saying. He's just asking the questions, because remember, each one of us, as we're building, we know where we want to go and where we need to be, but that takes time. There's a process, there's a steps, and that's why he's here. And I encourage you guys to follow them online. They're on all the platforms, and they have incredible YouTube videos where they discuss more than branding. More than branding. It's called Eyes Wide Open. No, yeah, Eyes Wide Open. Yeah, Eyes Wide Open, their podcast. So I just wanted to share that a bit with you guys, and to recognize it. Let's talk emotional connection and branding. Now, this is the hot topic in terms of everyone's like, say you're going to connect. Now I'm going to bring this up because yesterday I actually did, I did a speaking engagement at the Chamber of Commerce, and it was really nice. And this young girl asked me a question about networking, because I was talking about that and sharing how to do that. And she said, well, I don't want to be one of those where I go in and like once a year I send you a message. So my first thing to her was, well, first of all, why are you doing this? And secondly, what's your ROI, right? What are you looking to get from this? You're here, you're looking for something. So what is the ROI that you're wanting? So I broke it down systemically, because one, I don't have time to waste. At the end of the day, we still want to meet people and have friends and do all of those things. But if I'm in a room of 30 people, 50 people, 100 people, not all 100 people is going to be my friend. And I'm there for business, because this is, an event where entrepreneurs were coming in to learn. And let's say out of the 100, and I broke it down, it was like out of the 100, maybe 50 will connect with you. Out of those 50, how are you tracking that they're actually there? Like, are you sending them to your email list, or are you just sending them to follow you on IG, for example, right? And if they are on IG, how are you going to track that? How are you going to know, so then you can start building relationships? And then from that, essentially you're putting them in a funnel. It's because we all have friends who are in a funnel, some who are close, some who are not close, some who are in between. I mean, this is just life. I'm just using business terms, but it's essentially, that's what it is. But then another speaker, when I was finished, because I was getting her to really think, and I said, you may get only one person who may genuinely, even though people are on your email list and they're going through your funnel, they're all at different stages. Some may buy, some may not, but there may be one, maybe, who would be in your community and might become a friend, for example, or you may have that closer relationship with. And so I was just sharing with her, look at it from that perspective. So this guy comes on, one of the other speakers, and he was telling her a lot about more connection. He didn't tell her about tracking. He was like, just go with it and feel it. And it wasn't that what he was saying was incorrect, in my opinion. It was just that I understand why she was there. She was there for a reason. She was there because she's looking at, how am I going to get clients? She was there to know, how can networking and collaborations or partnerships help me? And at the end of the day, she still needs to know how to track it. Because if we don't have the data, it doesn't make sense. Like, how are we going to know it's working? Anyways, all that to say, now coming back to emotional connection. In a situation like this question comes up to you, Jay, and let's say you're talking. How would you answer that in terms of creating emotional connections with people? Let's say you just met, you're in a room of, let's say 50. We'll keep the number small, so that you can still build emotional connections with them.
All right. Well, I have a lot to say on that, but I'm going to let Cyn.
I saw Cyn was like buzzing. Her head was nodding. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah. So this is my area of expertise. And if I'm in a room with 50 people, I am excited. I want to meet every single one of them. I want to make friends with all of them. I collect business cards when I go. And if somebody doesn't have a business card, then I collect their contact information. And then I go home and put it, or well, Jay helps me with that. He puts it into a document for me, but I call every single person and I don't talk about sales. I don't talk about products. I don't talk about branding. I make friends. And so what I would have told her is, make as many friends as you can, take as many cards as you can. But honestly, really the truth is if you have your one person, then you'll know who is the right contact for you and who is not with the first few minutes of the conversation. Right. And so I'm gonna let Jay talk about the one person and why that matters because they go hand in hand.
Yeah. Before you start, Jay, I want to touch on with you, Sunshine. And I like your approach. You're like my daughter. Well, she comes to me to everything because she's homeschooled. But so she gives everyone a card. She doesn't care. She's like, you're someone's sleeping the floor. They're setting up. They're whatever. She gives everyone a card. She gets to know their name. Like she's like you, just so
knows.
Yeah.
She knows. You never know because everyone has a network of 120 people. Everyone in business or not, and you never know who you're meeting. And passing out cards, to everyone. Your daughter and I would have the best time together.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Like that. But I don't know if you do this with Jay. And we'll get to you, Jay, in a second about the one person, but I don't know if she does this with you. My daughter, she talks, she has a conversation real quick. She gives a card and then she goes on to the next one because she's like very like, I got to meet everybody. This is my time frame. And she knows that, and this is exhausting. People who, those online, you guys know, and you're networking and connecting, you're in a room with 100 people, 200 people, 50 people. It doesn't matter. 1,000 people. If you want to meet as many people as possible, you have to keep the conversation quick. You got to keep moving. You have to be authentic. There's a whole thing, but
yeah, that's the excuse to meet after.
Yeah. Right? Yes, exactly. Yes.
So I only had 5 minutes with you. I only had 2 minutes with you. I really want to get to know you. Let's meet for coffee. Yes. And I'll fill up my calendar like this.
That's exactly like she tells them, oh, my mom will get in contact with you because she's like, my mom will call you, don't worry. And she reminds me like 2 days later, she'll wait like 2-3 days. Literally, did you get in contact with them? Or did you just take the card and it's sitting on your desk? Oh, he doesn't say. Did you do that?
I get so buzzed from it. I get so happy. It doesn't drain me. At the end, I have to do things to bring my energy down so I can sleep.
Yes. She's very much like that, but like a younger, very young version. So like once she meets the whole room, or she's connected with as many people as possible, depending on how many people is in the room, she's like, okay, I'm done. Yeah. And then she has to sit because she's young. But anyways, I really wanted to share like one, the similarity, and two, like I actually like this approach, and I found that when we've gone to several events, we've won some top awards and stuff, and we go there and with some big industry leaders, they would actually call her out and on stage and be like, I have never seen like networking like this. I've never seen this level of connection. Like she's in, she's out. I know her name. And then and so they will actually say something about her, like on stage, even though they're presenting like a different award. And for her, yeah. And she's like, even if she wins or not, she's like, they're going to talk about me. So that's okay. As long as you know my name. And so she sees it from like that perspective. So that made me have to shift my perspective as well in terms of the branding. So people know we're a mother-daughter duo. So there's that. Thank you, everyone who's tuning in, over 125 of you. Thank you. If you have questions for Jay, for Sunshine, please, put it in the comments. Put it in comments. We will connect with you and answer your questions. So Jay, now your piece on that one person. So we're in the room. We've got the numbers or got the cards or following somehow, right? What do we do to find the one person?
Yeah, so I'm gonna tie it back into branding, right? Yes. So you guys were talking about networking and connecting and rapport building and outreach, which is all super important. And those activities are all far more effective with a far higher ROI when you know who your one person is. And the one person concept or philosophy is my evolved version of a target audience or an ideal customer kind of thing. Because if you look at the greatest brands in the world, they all started by serving one person. Nike, Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman started by serving Otis, the college track athlete. And by serving him super well, they built their reputation higher and higher until they were able to reach more people and more schools and more states and more countries. Mark Zuckerberg started by serving himself, lonely geeks at Harvard who couldn't find dates with hot girls. He made Facebook for himself. And by serving himself really well and making the product really sing and perfect for him, it reached other Harvard geeks and then other Harvard students and then other Yale students and Vassar students and more schools and then outside of schools and then business organizations and then the whole world. Like, it starts by putting away all the crazy ego and ambition and like, I need to reach everyone and we have to get more customers and more and more and more and more and more, and swapping that for I humbly serve this one person and I do it so well that my reputation or my brand can't help but grow. The CEO, the founder of Ring Doorbells, did the same thing. He helped his wife because she kept missing packages, Amazon packages at the door. And he served her so well, it reached other moms and other moms and other moms in the neighborhood. And the brands that fail, the companies that fail, they don't have a one person. They're very unclear on who they're serving. And some of them will be like, oh, we did market research and we found a target audience. And it's like, but who is your one person? What is their name? What is their address? What do they think when they wake up, when they go to bed? Can you contact them by phone for an interview? Like, if you have to say no to those questions, you're not serving one person. You're not serving any person. And the brands you look up to all understood this. They all knew business is about serving human beings. And the better you serve one human being, that first foundational human being, the better you're going to serve everybody else. And when you go to a networking event and you walk in, if you know you're one person, if you know you're serving Otis, the track athlete, or Mark Zuckerberg, or your wife who misses Amazon packages, you're going to know exactly who to reach out to at that networking event. You're going to know who to waste time with, who to spend time with, and who to avoid wasting time with. And on top of that, like Cyn said, everyone has a network of 120 people. So even if you're talking to like someone who's not your one person, you know, they might know your one person. They might know someone like that. They might know a single mom. They might know a rich business person. They might know somebody. So that's why branding, my brand philosophy hinges on this one person concept. And it's really important. And once you get it, all other business and brand decisions become easy. You know what products to make, what to serve, what offers, what copy to use, what language, what lingo, what phrases, you know, what events to attend, you know, who to talk to at the events, because it's so obvious. Is it Mark Zuckerberg? Is it Otis? Is it my one person? Or is it somebody else?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is some powerful truths.
As the connector for us, this makes it really helpful for me. The moment I get someone's card, the moment that they get my card and those first few minutes of conversation, I know instantly if they're what category they're in, are one person or my network.
But that's because your card is so well branded that it repels haters.
Yes.
And it magnetizes fans. Like if you give if you hand your card to someone and they go, thank you, and they put it away, your card sucks. Like your card should be doing work for you.
Yeah.
It should be doing a job for you. And that job should be to filter out the wheat from the chaff.
Mm-hmm.
Or same for your website. If people land on your website, like, oh, nice website. Like if there's no polarizing, like buzzworthy reaction, you have failed. Like your website is not doing the job it's meant to do, and your card is not doing the job it's meant to do, and your brand is not doing the job it's meant to do.
When I call those people back after I've met them at an event, even a month later, they always know who I am.
Yeah.
I'll start saying, I met you at, and they're like, oh, I remember you.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you. Oh, the brand badass. Oh, yeah, with the boobs. I know. Because my card does all the brand. Our card is branded so good. They know who we are.
Okay. I know there's more to come with that, and I like it. But I want to take a moment there. I want to flush out more about this because this is very, very important. And some people might miss it. And I hope they don't. But if they do, I want you guys to go a little bit in depth. We talked about the reputation. We talked about the size and the strength of the reputation. We talk about personal and business brand synchronized together and how that affects those in your sphere of influence or like in the community above, beyond that. Now we're talking about the one person, especially when we are networking, when we're talking to people, we're meeting people. You got to know who your one person. But you mentioned something very, very powerful, which was saying your card should do the work for you. People do not realize the card needs to do the work for you. Our card, for example, is blue, yellow, red with a touch of red because of just the design and the nature of it. So right away, people see the card, they know the card, they're like, there's no other cards like that when we go in any space, for example. But can you share with us what that means? How can my business card do the work for me? Because most people, they either go on Canva or maybe someone on their team that says they're an expert at whatever goes in there and says, okay, I'm going to create a card for you. And they put the name, they put an email or a QR code, they put a title. How can I make the card work for me? Tell me.
Yeah, it's a great question. And all that stuff, the logo and the colors and the copy and all this stuff, it's important. But they are brand expressions. They're marketing. Like it's like your brand is your reputation and your core and your principles and your foundation. And it's like an abstract concept, something you want a message you want to bring to the world, a reputation you want to bring to the world. And if you're doing a good job, all of the brand assets and brand expressions that you use will communicate and convey that reputation and that message. So our brand is for rebelpreneurs. Our one person is a rebelpreneur, right? Our one person is someone who's going to respond well to rebellious things. So we don't just make any card. We put a card that is rebellious. And it has boobs on one side, like her cleavage, and it's got me on the other side with the phrase "the brand badass," not censored, not dollar signs, just badass.
Yeah.
And when we hand this card to people, it filters out the rebels from the non-rebels. Right? If we meet a prudish Christian woman who is thinks every cuss word is blasphemy and she's like a school mom from the 1920s or something. She takes one look at that card. She's like, put those boobs away and don't swear on your card. And she hands it back to us. She's like, I won't take this. And good. So I've created a hater. She won't even talk to me for the rest of the night. And that's fine. But if I hand it to, I don't know, an artist or a model or an OnlyFans girl or something, they're like, oh, brand badass? That's amazing. That's what I need on my team. I need a brand badass. Yo, and I can see you're not shy either. And so we connect, we bond, over the card, and they remember. And the other girl remembers me too and says, I'm never talking to this guy again. And that's perfect. Like when you have a strong brand, you polarize everybody. You create haters and fans. People either love Trump or they hate him.
Okay. I like this. I know you're going, but I want to know here. I want to, because this is good. Okay. And this is the thing. A lot of people are professionals. They can't have a boobs on their card. They can't have some cuss word. Not that, I mean, nowadays that isn't necessarily seen as a cuss word, but for some, because of their profession and because of the people that they're working with, there's a high likelihood they're not going to go to that approach. However, they do want their card to give them well, yeah, give them the kind of like that shock value to separate the wheat from the chaff, as you mentioned. You're using some old biblical terms there, if people haven't picked up. Um,
Well,
so
you can
how can they?
polarize in other ways.
How?
Um,
Yeah. So share with us how to do
Yeah,
that.
so you
How can they do that?
well, so you could have, professional trad wife on the card. And so now you're not a rebel at all. You're a trad wife, and you've got a pink card with beige tones, and everything's nice and fluffy and light. And you go so far as to avoid cuss words. Like, I don't know, the phrase on your thing, the tagline on your card could say something like, if you can't say something kind, don't say it at all. And it's like,
Yeah.
who puts it on a
Okay.
card? Right. But
Yeah.
as soon as you put that on a card, when you hand that out, all the old-timey school marms, the Little House on the Prairie folks, are going to love you. And they'll be like, this is the best card ever. And I love that saying. That's a really nice tagline. We should all speak kinder. And like, now you're connecting and bonding. And, the Hollywood badasses or the edgy folks, the rebels, are going to be like, ew, what the hell? Like, what is this? Get this out of my face. And it'll be good. Like, your card will be doing its work and its job. What you don't want is, nice, thanks for the card, man. I'll talk to you later. Oh, you're a real estate agent? Great. I met 3 at this networking event. Nice to meet you. Like,
Yeah.
this is a terrible waste. Your clothing, your handshake, your hair, your style, your manner of speech, your website, your social feeds, your cards, they are all brand expressions or potential brand expressions, and they could be doing a lot of work for you.
So you, Delisa, you stand out because you have faith with you.
Yeah.
How many other people are bringing their child with them to a networking event? That right there is polarizing, because
some people will hate that.
Some people will think, oh, that's terrible. How can you do that?
And some will love it.
And some will love it. I would love it. But
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? For me, I'm at that point in my life. I don't care what they think, because you know what? At the end of the day, she's with me. She's homeschooled. Some people don't like that. I'm like so high for education. I love learning and like love education, and I did all that stuff. And it's really great, and I advocate for education.
But that's what I mean,
Yeah.
You can polarize
it.
in
Yeah.
a very, like, to me, I homeschooled my kids.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful thing, but it will polarize the people who don't agree with you, and that's a great thing. And you don't have to put boobs out there to do it, right?
Yeah,
so there's lots of ways to do it, and whatever feels comfortable.
So I like that. Thank you so much for getting into that and really helping those that are tuned in to really take a look at how can I maximize and be the most effective when I hand out every card, when I show up online or in a story, because that's part of the brand expression. I'm just over loving this conversation. That actually happened. I sang. I have an upcoming in-person event on Sunday, and I sang the final countdown song. And then I went into like, yeah, we're in the final countdown. We have so much speakers there. We have this is what's coming, and I actually was receiving messages from that. And then I got even other messages saying, oh, can I join and be a speaker? I'm in the UK. Can we do virtual? Like stuff like that. All because I just sang one in the final countdown.
So here's the thing.
Go ahead.
So here's the thing. If singing and dancing feels authentic to you,
yeah,
then this should not be like done once a year or once every 5 years or randomly when you feel like it. There should be a concerted and conscious effort to put singing or dancing or song references into your materials, into your brand. Maybe you have a pop-up card. Maybe you get those special cards printed where you turn it over and a little battery magnet plays a song. Or maybe you have a little jingle you sing when you hand out the card. Or maybe on social, every time you promote an event, you always tie it into a song reference or something, and you become famous for that. And people are like, oh, that's Delisa. Like, she's the song girl. Like, she's always making these song references, and it becomes your brand. Now, you don't have to go that route. Maybe you just wanted to do it as a one-time thing. But you want to find the authentic things about you and make sure that they come across. For me, I always have a fresh perspective or a fresh view on a taboo. And no matter what I'm talking about, whether it's branding or Bible thumping or who knows what, I always have something a little bit edgy to say and a little bit eye-opening. And that's part of my brand. And I make sure that shows up in everything I write and do. And even the smallest tweet, like 90% of the time, it's going to have some fresh view on some taboo.
Yeah, that's why I call them the badass.
I will say you guys do keep things fresh. And yes, I have responded to those emails when I've opened it and read it.
Wow, thank
Yes.
you so much.
I wanted to ask, before we move on, one last thing in terms of emotional connection when it comes to email campaigns, email marketing. You guys, from what I've seen, have created the highest standard. And I'm on like several email lists from, different ranges of people in terms of not only just the subject line, but the storytelling when it comes to your emails. Sometimes you do it like 5 days a week. Sometimes it's not. It just depending. Maybe you're doing a series or something like that, and you're very clear about that, like in terms of how often you will get an email if it's a series or not. How can people build an emotional connection? Because I have an emotional connection through your email. I mean, but I like it strengthened my connection with you through your email campaigns because you're witty, you're fun, you're direct, you're not beating around the bush, and at the same time, you're informative. And then you're also sharing, hey, I got value here. Actually, I shouldn't even say I have value here. You present, I will use the brand. The brand is value. We're the brand, we're value. So for those listening in and tuning in, thank you. We appreciate it. But sometimes we think we are being of like our service is the value instead of us being the value. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed between Jay and Sunshine, I should call her, is that they are true to their brand in how they speak, in how they represent themselves across all platforms, but they do it in such a way that you have no other option either to like send them like, what the heck is this? I do not agree. And then they will respond back or like, I really, really love this. And I have done that. So yeah. How do you do that? How did you make that emotional connection in your emails? I'm intrigued because I need to know this.
I mean, I love it. It's a great question.
It's a great question.
You mentioned storytelling. This is something I learned from Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. I don't know if you've heard of ClickFunnels, but
yeah,
Russell
ClickFunnels,
right?
Yeah, Russell's a pretty smart guy, and I think he's Christian. He's got a good heart, anyways, and he provides a ton of value. And one of his teachings is to make emails that are just friendly and casual and story based, right? And stories are the DNA of emotional connection, right? If you imagine a world where there are no stories, there's just information and data and statistics and surveys and polls and likes and dislikes and whatever. There's no story behind any of it. That's not a world that inspires emotional connection for anybody. It sounds like a concrete gray jungle of technological advances and like robots and AI and whatever, and there's no stories anywhere. The reason people love AI is because AI will spit out a story for you in 2 seconds or an impressive artwork or something. Even the videos about AI are people telling stories like, I used AI to go from A to B or to go from 0 to 1,000,000 or something like this. It's always storytelling. So storytelling is the DNA of emotional connection. And when you're putting out emails or email campaigns or tweets or social campaigns or whatever, if you leave out the storytelling, then what do you deserve? Mm-hmm. You deserve no emotional connection, right? You have to include the storytelling. And if you're bad at storytelling, you better find a way to fix it. Partner up with a good storyteller, find a good copywriter, practice on your own, try somebody from Fiverr or Upwork, like whatever it is, you've got to include some stories. people are hungry for stories. It's the DNA of emotional connection. And if you're gonna ignore stories, then you are also ignoring emotional connection. And so our emails are aimed to be short stories that connect to a piece of value at the end, right? So if you enjoyed this story and you have an emotional connection with this story, here is some further value in a similar vein.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome. No,
and
thank you.
It's not rocket science. Like it's a pretty simple formula that anyone can do. Now, if your brand is different than me, you want to tell your stories different than me. If you have a softer voice, you want your stories to have a softer voice. If you have like a military David Goggins voice, then you want to tell some military David Goggins stories. Like you gotta find your own niche and your own brand and your own authenticity. But the principle of disseminating stories to your audience always holds up. It's how everything you look up to, thrives, right? Even the Bible is just full of stories.
So,
our brand is about. Sorry.
What is happening? Who's talking?
Our brand is about providing value and being authentic and being true. So I pour my heart out on our podcast. I mean, there's episodes where I'm crying and sharing things I've never shared with other people in my life. And so I wanted to carry that into the email. For me, it was very important to just be honest. And that's why 2 days a week it's me talking and one day it's Jay. So that the readers get to know both of us, not just me or just him.
Yeah.
And so we just share what's happening and with a lot of love. And we never upsell at the end, which a lot of people would not like.
No, I love it because you're literally there for value because you do send them to a link. You do have a CTA, either to the coffee table book. So they do have a free coffee table book called Eyed Wise Open. And then they do have you do have some resources that you share, and you always send them to the free resources. And I mean, they're already on the website. I've downloaded your resources. I've read your resources, and and then of course you're browsing on you'll browse on the website to learn more. So I see how you're doing it. You're direct, but you're navigating them through a path because your CTA relates consistently with the story or with the email, and that makes it easier to click the link for sure, 100%.
Well, also because Jay helped me change so many things in my life that I want to spread that love to other people. And so the stories are true. Like this is how I changed my life. And this is how I improved my business and my brand and my personal brand and just everything about myself was through his help. Mm-hmm. So I just want to share that with the world.
Awesome. I love it. Let's go on to very, very briefly, because I want to spend a bigger chunk of the time on the last piece. I want to go into adapting to new technologies and trends when it comes to branding. So we talked about reputation, we talked about the size, we talked about the volume of it, we talked about your brand expression and your one person. But I want to talk a bit about the tech AI stuff, and I know you touched on it. But before we do that, let me just say thank you so much, Sandra, for your comment. You said powerful words. Learning a lot from you all. Thank you. Thank you. If anyone has a comment, if anyone has a question, please ask. We appreciate it so much. I know Jay and Cyn definitely appreciates it as well. So yeah, adapting to new technologies and trends.
Yeah.
We're talking about honesty. We're talking about the reputation. We're talking about finding our one person. But with AI, how are we adapting in this new way of being and the virtuality and everything?
Yeah, as always, on point questions.
Great question.
If you look at the history of business from caveman times till now, people have always had reputations. They've always been responsible for growing the size and strength of their reputation or shrinking it. And whatever technology has been around gets used. Like in caveman times, if you could send a Morse code signal with a fire and get more people to show up, then that's what you use. Oh, we invented fire? Great. Let's use it to get some attention. If the printing press comes around and now you don't need Morse code fire signals, you can just put out a flyer and printing press it to everybody and get your message out and your brand out, your reputation, your offer. Great, use it. If computers and the internet come around and now we can just post on social media and get 100 eyeballs or 1,000 eyeballs, great, use it. Now that AI is out, what's going to happen? Are we following the pattern, right? Like, it can help you build your reputation, build your brand, get your message out, reach more people in shorter time, just like all the other technologies that have come along before. The question is, are you clear enough on your brand already? Is your brand foundation strong and stable? When you use these technologies to express your brand message and to connect with and communicate with your audience, are you communicating something clear and refined and focused of value, or are you communicating some kind of scattered, haphazard, inauthentic thing that is just full of trend hopping and like following the latest shiny advice from Hormozy or whoever? Like, if your brand is strong and clear, then all the technology will help you and serve you, because you'll be serving your one person. You'll be using the right lingo, the right phrases, the resonant stuff. Your card will be doing the work. Your website will be doing the work. Your AI will be guided properly and instructed properly, because you have strong brand foundations and you're very clear on who you are, who you serve, and what you're about. If you are unclear on those things, then the AI will be all over the place and it will be guided poorly, and it won't produce copy that resonates, and it won't use the right words. So, like, there are new jobs now, like AI jobs, prompt engineers, prompt mastery. There's new skills, right? You have to learn prompting. And so do you want to sit down and pick up prompt engineering? Because either you're going to need to learn prompt engineering, or you're going to have to hire someone who's good at prompt engineering, and you need to know enough to recognize a good prompt engineer. Otherwise, you can't bring them onto your team. Or you can avoid AI altogether, but then you have to find some other way to get your brand known and your reputation out there, which is fine. Like, a lot of Rick Rubin has one of the biggest reputations in music. And I don't think he didn't have social media for years. He didn't have a book for years. He didn't have a website. He didn't have anything. He just met people, shook hands, and made music and built his reputation. Right? He's good at storytelling. He's got his beard, like his Rick Rubin beard for the branding. Like, you recognize him when you see him, and that's when he walks into a room and says his piece. His brand is clear. So does Rick Rubin need to jump on AI? Probably not. Could he though? Well, his brand is strong enough. He knows what he's about and what he stands for. And if he did partner up with AI, I'm sure he would make sure that it spoke in his voice and it said the things he needed to be said. And he would quality check it and quality control it and make sure it represented his brand. So technology isn't really a big deal. There's always new advances in technology. But throughout the whole history of business, the people with the strongest, clearest brand foundations use the technology well, and the people without clear, strong brand foundations got swept up by the technology or obliterated by it or lost in it or whatever, and it didn't serve them.
Well, I think if your brand isn't clear and you're using AI technology, it like magnifies that even more.
It does. But you can also use it to get clear on your brand foundations. You can say, hey, AI, act like a psychologist or a therapist and quiz me about my entrepreneurial life, quiz me about my entrepreneurial career, quiz me about my brand, and ask really deep, insightful questions to bring out the juiciest answers from me that I would never think of asking or whatever. Or you can tell it to be a copywriter and say, hey, this is my one person. I need to know more about them. Let's do some market research together before we write the copy. Or here are some examples of other copy that has resonated with people like my one person. You know, there's so many things you can do, right? But it'll only work if you're clear on what what you're about, clear on your goals, clear on your brand, clear on what you're doing, and anything you're not clear on, you're aware of it so that you can ask the AI to help you get clear on it before you proceed.
I didn't think we would stay this long on this, but I love it because that's such a impactful and powerful response. I didn't want to say answer. It's a response because you're showing us as well what we need to do. And when we were talking about that, like there's an upcoming AI program and it's talking about storytelling. It's talking about how to properly use it. And you were talking about being a prompt what was the prompt engineer, and they didn't use that word in there. Now, I'm going to this course for free, but it's like it was presented to me and offered to me to come. Do you want to come and take this course? And this person is doing it, and I was like, yeah, like wow, why wouldn't I want to come and learn a bit more to understand a bit more? But I didn't even realize that it was called being a prompt engineer. And when you were speaking and I was looking back at their landing page and the terminology and the wording that they actually use to represent this stuff, I was like, this makes logical sense. Now, this is like a certification course as well, too. But I thought, what a really great way for me to be able to be more efficient and effective as a business owner. Because
I think you would like today's email is Jay wrote a guide for AI prompts and stuff, and so that might be helpful for you too.
Awesome. Yes. And guys, get on their email list, follow them along and get on their email list because they provide rich insights, rich value that actually produces what it says it will produce. It isn't a here you go, come back to me again and then I'll teach you a little bit more and come back to me again and teach you a little bit more. I mean, yes, you go back and you'll learn more, obviously, but essentially it's there it is. You need this in this moment, and you don't necessarily get that a lot. And that's so powerful because that's where I am. And that's the attitude that I came in 2025 with. I don't want to be meeting people twice over the same thing. If it's something as simple as, like a simple statement that could already be solved. Like, yeah, like.
Well, they can join us at eyeswideopenfree.com.
Eyeswideopenfree.com. Great. Thank you. All right. We're about to be wrapping up soon. Let's talk about building trust and authenticity. And I know, Jay, yes, that we talked about all of those things already. We touched on all of them. How can we continue to build trust and authenticity in 2025?
Great question. And I have a really special answer for you. Really, I really do.
I think your special answer might be a question, so I'm nervous.
Well, no one's going to give you this answer.
He's learning already.
That's part of my brand.
Yeah, it is.
But I don't have any trick questions for you right now. The answer is courage. Because think about what happens when you're around a cowardly person. Okay? If you're around a cowardly parent, a cowardly mom or dad, when the other parent starts some shit, do you feel safe that the remaining parent is going to step up and do the right thing? Or do you feel scared and like you have to solve it yourself? You have to run away. You have to call the police. You have to go to your friend's house. You have to hide in your room. You feel scared, no? Because
I've never experienced it, so yeah.
Well, okay. So, but then at a job, if you have a cowardly coworker, and the boss comes in and says, "Oh, I want everyone to stay behind," and you're like, if we all speak up, if we all say, that's not the deal. We deserve extra pay. We have appointments. We're going to a party. If we all speak up, it'll be fine. But the cowardly people pleaser is going to ruin it for everybody. And so then do you feel safe to speak up at work? No, I can't say anything to the boss because this dude's going to bait me out and he's going to people please. And now we all have to stay, like, or I look bad compared to him or whatever. Or like US politics, you elect a new leader and you expect them to keep their promises and do what's right, but they get bought by lobbyists and bribed by whoever and bought by corporations. And now they're not keeping any of their promises. And so they didn't have the courage to take a stand, right? So you want trust and authenticity. Like, they couldn't be more related to courage than anything, right? They are the most related to courage. If you are not dealing with a courageous, brave soul who's going to stand up and do the right thing, then you cannot trust them. And they have no authenticity because their integrity will disappear as soon as times get tough. As soon as they're going to lose a friend or lose a client or lose some money, they'll suddenly stop doing the right thing, and you won't trust them ever again. I was watching a documentary on a Twitch streamer recently. Her name's Amaranth, big OnlyFans selling the bathwater Twitch streamer or whatever. And she complained to everyone that, like, her husband was making her do this, and everyone, she was playing the victim, and everyone bought into it and, like, got her support and whatever. And she finally got free of the guy and the drama was over. And she said, oh, in 2 months, I'm going to be, covered up. I'm going to be modest. I'm going to have sweaters on and whatever. My content's going to change. It's 2 years later and she's as slutty as ever, right? So, like, she's still chasing the money. She's still doing the thing. And she never explains why or how. And when people interview her about it, she's like, oh, I can't talk about that. It's an NDA. I can't, whatever. It's like, there's no trust, right? And she might still get by and make money, but her diehard fans are leaving and her trust is dropping and her trust will continue dropping. And the same thing happens to any brand, right? You get these brands, they stand for something, they're putting out quality, and then they start cutting corners and stuff. Right? Cadbury chocolates recently shrunk the size of their chocolate. They had square chocolates with corners, and now they've made them rounded chocolates with rounded corners, and it looks friendlier and it's softer and it's nicer, but you're actually getting less chocolate. It's not like they gave you an extra chocolate at the end to make up for the less chocolate. They just cut the chocolate, and it hurts trust. Their brand is going to suffer and suffer and suffer, and it doesn't happen in a year or 50 years. 100 years though, it's gonna, like, if they keep it up, it's gonna suffer. Steve Jobs died and left Apple, and now Apple, their brand of innovation and design and mastery is rapidly dropping. 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, who knows what Apple's gonna be like? Because they're just making stuff to make stuff now. They don't have the Steve Jobs focus and ruthlessness and dedication and commitment. The brand is hurting and trust is dropping. And so everybody wants to create more trust and authenticity, but they're all too scared to stand up. They're too scared to give a card out with boobs on it or with badass on it. They're too scared to bring their kid to the events. They're too scared to wear a flashy wig or do something different or take a stand on politics or whatever. Like, they're too scared to be authentic. They're too hungry to people please. They want to chase every customer. They don't want to lose anyone or any friend or any connection ever. They don't want to lose a single dollar. And so they're all in the pocket of somebody else. And so they cannot create trust and authenticity. And they can buy it or scam it in the short term, but sooner or later, that's dropping.
Yeah. Wow. That's like, I got nothing else. That's it. I mean, that was a mic drop right there. And I like that word, have courage, right?
You got to be bold with your brand.
Yeah. You have to have courage to stand for your values. You have to have courage to stand for your integrity. You have to have courage to stand for what you believe in.
You also have to have courage to have a one person to tell other people who aren't, no.
Yeah, I work with these types of people. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. You know what I found very interesting, and you were talking about having the courage. Like, a lot of times, I don't have, like, you both, you don't have time to waste. You just, actually, people shouldn't have time to waste, but there's just so many things. They're just 24 hours in a day. There's a lot that needs to get done. We look at the priorities, and we all have the same amount of time. So for me, I don't have time to waste. And if I want to waste time, I'm wasting it on my time, right? But what I found very interesting was that women showed up. A lot of women. I also had men, surprisingly, like, show up to anything, they would want to come to my events. And I'm like, this is for women. And they're like, really? And I was like, yeah, it's like only for women. But then at the end, when we're wrapping up, I had like 2 guys coming asking me questions and about, my topic and how it can support them. And I was like, look, I work with women. Like, and it had to be clear, but did I answer their questions? Yes. Did I give them the support that they needed at that time? Yes. But as I said, like, I found it very interesting, the whole dynamic, but for me, I have to stay true because of what our brand represents. Even everything that we put out there, I find even on YouTube, when we put stuff out there, a high majority of the people who would turn into our videos are, well, one, it's conservative, not so much the liberal people. There are some, but mostly conservative, which is fine. But I also see like there's a high percentage as women, but there's also a high percentage of males that tune in. But our stuff is very much so like values based, family orientated, and it's, I believe it's targeted, but I'm sure, Jay, you will, like, when you take a look, you'll tell me something else. You'll tell me the truth. How about that? You will tell me the truth.
We always will.
Yes. But I always find it interesting that there's always those who may try to, as you said, they may not be your one person or your ideal audience, but they may need that support. But then you have to have the courage to say, no, I need my one person. I need my target. So
yeah, you can always make small exceptions, but you just have to be aware every exception might hurt your brand. And if you have too many exceptions, pretty soon you're not even serving your core audience, you're serving some other audience.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say that it hasn't hurt the brand. It's just definitely like I've noticed where it's like, okay, how can I refine? Where do things need tweaking that I'm not necessarily getting that higher volume of women, right? So there is that.
Locally known, or regionally known, or nationally known, or globally known.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big piece. Anyways, we're after 1 p.m. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and for all who have tuned in and stay tuned in. Over 125 of you. We went up to about 140 people. Thank you guys so very much for staying tuned in. And for those who are watching the replay, thank you so very much. If you have any questions, please, as I mentioned, reach out to Jay, reach out to Cyn. They have an incredible channel. They are excellent at what they do. They are literally an open book. So Eyes Wide Open is true to who they are. And I'm not saying this for the sake of saying this. And I haven't been following them for like a week or 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, it's been close to, we're coming up on a year now, consistently, where I've been in their community, they've been in mine, and I know Jay has definitely been, sometimes he even asks questions. Like if something goes out, he will either put a comment or you put a direct question. Then I'm like, oh. So then I'm forced to respond, which is a good thing, because I want to make sure, like, no, this is what it means. So definitely when you guys connect with them, know that you're getting true, you're getting value, you're getting the authenticity. And it isn't for any self-serving, egotistical way. This is to help you. This is to help you and those in your sphere of influence to thrive. Because at the end of the day, if we're not fulfilling our purpose, if we're not evolving, then we're stagnant, we're stuck, we're stale, and that's just no good for anybody, including yourself. Okay. Any final thoughts? Any final words, you two?
You rock.
Well, you are awesome. Thank you for having us. Well, we love you and appreciate you. I always love when you reply to emails or you ask questions. For me, that's everything. Anybody who reaches out to us, I reply back. My email is open. It's cynshine@gmail, cynshineonline@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see some clips going out in the coming weeks of this episode, because I know people are going to learn a lot from this. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Keep
Bye.
rising.
Should I keep rising?